Let us approach this video as if you and I are sitting down after you have already done a few small graded exposure steps, and now you are wondering, how do I actually walk through an exposure session in real time, especially when my brain is screaming at me to stop? In the previous video, you learned the logic of graded exposure, slowly, kindly approaching the movements and activities you fear, using your new understanding of pain plus somatic tracking so your brain can update its predictions. You also learned how to build an exposure hierarchy and pick 1 or 2 starting points that feel like a 3 or 4 out of 10 on your fear scale. This video is about the in-the-moment experience. We will walk through what happens before, during, and after a graded exposure session, using concrete examples. You will learn what to say to yourself, how to use somatic tracking while you move, and how to handle spikes of pain or fear without abandoning the process or pushing yourself too hard. Think of this as a live walkthrough of graded exposure done the PRT way. To make this practical, let us choose one example and stay with it. Bending to pick something up from a mid-level height, like a light object placed on a chair. You can translate the principles to whatever your own chosen activity is: walking, sitting, lifting, reaching, driving, or something else. We will divide the process into 3 phases: preparation, doing the activity, and debriefing. Phase 1 is preparation. Before you begin any exposure, you want to step out of autopilot and set your intention. That means taking a brief pause and asking, why am I doing this? In PRT, the answer is never to prove I am strong or to push through pain no matter what. The answer is to show my nervous system that this is safer than it believes, and to create new learning. So you might start by standing near the chair with the light object on it and saying to yourself, I am about to practice bending toward this object 5 times, at my own pace. My spine and muscles are designed to move. My nervous system has become overprotective. This is not about forcing. This is about teaching my brain that this specific movement is safe enough. As you say this, you are reconceptualizing in real time. You are reminding your brain of the new model. Pain as overprotection, not necessarily damage. You might also briefly recall your medical safety foundation, how you have been evaluated, how serious conditions have been ruled out or treated. This adds another layer of confidence. I am not ignoring danger, I am deliberately retraining overprotection. Next, you check in with your current fear and pain levels. This can be very quick. You might ask, on a scale from 0 to 10, how scared do I feel about doing this right now? Maybe the answer is a 4. On a scale from 0 to 10, how intense is my pain right now before I start? Maybe it is a 5. You are not judging these numbers. You are simply getting a snapshot. This will help you notice change afterward. Now you bring in a moment of grounding. That might look like 1 or 2 slower, deeper breaths, especially with a slightly longer exhale. You feel your feet on the floor. You might softly relax your shoulders and jaw. You are sending your system a message. We are not in a rush. We are safe enough to do this calmly. Phase 2 is doing the activity. You begin your first bend toward the object. As you start to move, your brain might throw up warning thoughts. Careful! This is dangerous. Remember what happened last time. That is normal. Those thoughts are echoes of your past experiences and fears. You do not need to fight them, but you also do not need to obey them. As you move, you bring in somatic tracking. You notice the sensations in your back, hips, or wherever your pain usually appears with this movement. You describe them neutrally in your mind. There is tightness here. There is a pulling feeling. There is some heat. You remember, these sensations are my alarm system firing. They are not commands. They are not proof I am breaking. They are my brain's old pattern showing up. While you are in the bent position, even if it is just for a second or 2, you keep your breath flowing. If you can, you soften any extra bracing. Often, without realizing it, people clench every muscle available when they do a feared movement. You might gently release your shoulders or your face, even by just a few %. That small softening sends real safety signals. Then you come back up to standing. You have just done 1 repetition. You pause for a second and check in. How do you feel? Maybe the pain bumped up slightly from a 5 to a 6. Maybe the fear jumped to a 5 as well. You simply notice. You remind yourself, that makes sense. My nervous system has flagged this movement as dangerous for a long time. It is doing exactly what it has been trained to do. But I also notice that I am standing here, intact. Nothing catastrophic happened during that one bend. You then proceed to the second repetition, and the third, up to whatever number you chose beforehand. Let us say 5 bends total. During each one, you repeat the same pattern. Notice, label, reassure, breathe, return to standing. You are not trying to eliminate all fear or pain before continuing. You are staying within a window where you can still access some sense of calm and choice. What if, halfway through, your pain spikes more sharply? Perhaps on the third bend you feel a sudden jolt or a more intense wave of discomfort. In old patterns, that might be your cue to stop immediately and tell yourself, "See, I should not have done this. I knew it was dangerous." From a PRT angle, you handle it differently. You pause, maybe halfway up, and note what is happening. Okay, there is a surge of sensation. My alarm just turned the volume up. You take a slower breath, perhaps a longer exhale. You remind yourself, this is still my sensitive nervous system. It is not a sign that something tore or broke in this moment. You then complete the movement slowly, stand up, and see if the spike starts to settle even a little. Often, when your brain sees that the feared catastrophe did not occur, the spike subsides somewhat. If the surge feels too intense to continue with the remaining repetitions right then, you are allowed to adjust, without calling it failure. You might decide, today, 3 bends was enough to give my nervous system new information. I will stop here and revisit this movement another day. You keep the explanation kind. I am choosing to stop to stay within my window of tolerance, not because I am fragile or damaged. That nuance matters. You are still teaching your system that you are in charge, not the pain. Over time, as your nervous system learns, those spikes often become less frequent or less intense. But early on, variability is expected. Phase 3 is debriefing. Once you have finished the planned number of repetitions or decided consciously to stop, you take a minute to reflect. This is a crucial part of best practice in PRT. It is where you help your brain consolidate new learning instead of defaulting automatically to old fear stories. You can do this reflection silently, out loud, or on paper. A simple structure is to answer 3 questions. First, what did I predict would happen? Before the exercise, perhaps you expected a huge flare, a feeling of being stuck bent over, or a belief that you would not be able to walk afterward. Name those predictions clearly. Second, what actually happened? Be as concrete as you can. Maybe, my pain increased from a 5 to a 6 during the bends, and then went back to around a 5. I felt scared, but I could still move. I did not collapse. I am able to stand and walk around now. You are not sugarcoating. You are accurately noticing the difference between prediction and reality. Third, what does this suggest about my pain and my body? Here, you bring your reconceptualization back in. This suggests that my nervous system is sensitive and reactive, but that this movement itself is safer than my brain thinks. It suggests that I can do this movement without catastrophic injury, even if it is uncomfortable. It supports the idea that a lot of my pain is about overprotection. This reflection helps your brain start to weaken the old link between bending and danger and strengthen a new link between bending and survived safely. You can finish the debrief by checking your fear and pain levels again. If your fear has dropped even by 1 point, say from a 4 to a 3, that is meaningful. If your pain has not changed but you feel a bit more confident or less panicked, that is meaningful too. Those are the shifts that build capacity. Let us also talk about some common challenges and how to work with them during graded exposure. One challenge is the urge to constantly test whether the exposure is working by focusing on immediate pain levels. You might find yourself thinking, if my pain is not less by the end of this session, it has failed. That mindset can keep your nervous system under pressure, which paradoxically makes it harder for it to calm down. In PRT, we aim instead for outcome independence, which means your main measure of success is not, did the pain drop, but did I do the activity in a new way? Did I pair it with safety messages? Did I stay engaged rather than escaping in panic? From that perspective, even a session where pain stays the same can be a success, because your brain still learned, I can do this and be okay. Another challenge is the temptation to jump to harder activities too quickly. Suppose sitting for 5 minutes becomes much less scary after a week of practice. You might feel an understandable urge to leap straight to sitting for 2 hours or doing a 7-hour car ride. The risk is that such a big leap might overwhelm your system and lead to a rough flare, which then reinforces the old danger map. A more PRT consistent approach is to increase gradually. If 5 minutes has become easy, you might move to 8 or 10 minutes. If that becomes easier over time, then 15. You are still moving toward freedom. You are just doing it in steps your nervous system can genuinely learn from, instead of in big leaps that simply confirm its worst fears. There is also the emotional side of graded exposure. You might notice that as you engage in previously feared activities, emotional memories surface. Perhaps the first time your pain flared badly during a similar movement was during a time in your life that was already very stressful, lonely, or filled with conflict. Your brain linked not only movement with danger, but that whole emotional context with threat. If sadness, anger, fear, or even shame arise during or after an exposure, you can meet those emotions with the same spirit of somatic tracking you use for physical sensations. Notice where you feel the emotion in your body. Name it. There is sadness. There is fear. There is anger. Offer yourself a kind inner voice. Of course this is here. This has been a big journey. These feelings are not dangerous either. This emotional processing supports your overall sense of safety. Finally, remember that graded exposure is meant to move you toward the life you care about, not just toward arbitrary movements for their own sake. When you choose activities for your hierarchy, prioritize the ones that matter to you personally. If being able to sit through a family dinner, walk in nature, play on the floor with a child, or travel without dread are important to you, let those meaningful activities guide your steps. Training your nervous system through exposure becomes much more motivating when the goal is not simply bend better, but be present at the dinner table with less fear, or walk to that cafe I love and sit there comfortably, or pick up my grandchild without the old terror. As we close this video, take a moment to think about one specific exposure you are willing to try in the coming days. It does not have to be dramatic. In fact, it is better if it is not. Choose something at that 3 or 4 out of 10 fear level. Imagine yourself going through the 3 phases: preparation with reconceptualization and grounding, doing the activity with somatic tracking and kindness, and debriefing with an honest look at what you predicted versus what actually happened. If you want, you can even write out a short script for yourself to read before your exposure, including your new understanding of pain and a few reassuring phrases that feel natural to you. Having those words ready can make it easier to stay on track when old alarm thoughts show up. You are not trying to be fearless. You are learning to act alongside fear in a new way, so your brain can gather evidence that many of the things it has been warning you about for years are, step by step, safer than it believed. In the next video, we will explore expectations and outcome independence more deeply, how to keep your nervous system in a curious, learning mode instead of turning every practice into a high-stakes exam. That mindset shift is often what allows everything you are learning to truly take root. For now, know that each time you move gently toward a feared activity with this kind of awareness and care, you are doing some of the most important work of pain reprocessing therapy. Your alarm system is listening, and it can learn that many of these old threats are no longer dangerous.